The day you choose to start over always feels like stepping into a room where everyone has already judged you before you even speak. You tell yourself you're ready, but deep down you're terrified of losing the little stability you still cling to. What nobody tells you is that starting over doesn't begin with a big moment. It begins quietly, usually on an ordinary day, when you whisper to yourself that you deserve better. You look at your life and realize how many pieces no longer fit you. And it scares you because it means letting go of a version of yourself you've carried for years. You start over because staying the same hurts more than the fear of change. And when you hit that point, you know you can't go back. At first, you expect applause or encouragement from the people around you. But instead, you're met with confusion, silence, or subtle doubt that forces you to question yourself all over again. Starting over tests your self-worth in ways you never saw coming. You begin to ask if you're strong enough, smart enough, or even deserving enough to rebuild your life. You'll feel lonely even when people are standing right next to you, because no one can feel the internal earthquake you're surviving except you. But loneliness has a strange way of revealing truths you've ignored. It shows you who stayed out of convenience and who stays out of love. When you take your first step toward change, the world doesn't shift immediately. Instead, everything moves slowly, almost painfully, as if waiting for you to prove your commitment. People around you might think you're losing your mind. But the truth is, you're finally finding your direction. You start to notice the mistakes you made in the past, not with shame, but with clarity. You realize those mistakes were not failures. They were messages you refused to read. In the early days of starting over, you fight with old habits that try to pull you back. They whisper familiar lies that feel comfortable but dangerous. You battle with yourself more than anything else, because the version of you that created your old life doesn't want to let go without a fight. Every morning feels like a new test. Some days you wake up ready to conquer everything, and other days you feel like collapsing back into old patterns. But what nobody tells you is that both types of days matter. Every step you take, forward or backward, becomes part of your transformation. You'll experience moments where you miss the things you walked away from, even the toxic parts, because pain can sometimes feel comforting when you've lived in it long enough. You'll be tempted to return to familiar places, familiar people, familiar routines. But something inside you will whisper that going back will only break you again. There will be nights when you cry for no clear reason. Your heart will ache from the weight of rebuilding yourself brick by brick. Yet those tears are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you are shedding the pieces of yourself that cannot move forward. You will discover that healing takes longer than starting. Because starting is a decision, but healing is a journey. You begin to understand that fresh beginnings require forgiveness. Forgiveness for your past choices, past fears, and even the people who didn't show up for you. And slowly, you become aware of small changes happening inside you. The things that once triggered you lose their power, and the things you once feared become challenges you're willing to face. You'll notice that you don't react the same way you used to. And that realization will feel like a quiet victory only you can understand. As you keep rebuilding, you learn to protect your energy. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand your growth. You realize that starting over requires boundaries. You begin to say no to things that drain you and yes to things that nourish you. Some people will feel uncomfortable with your transformation, not because you've changed, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. You will outgrow conversations that once excited you, and you'll start searching for environments where your new self can breathe. As you walk through this new chapter, you'll meet parts of yourself you've never known. Strength you didn't know existed and courage you never believed belonged to you. You'll begin trusting yourself again, maybe for the first time. And that trust will become the foundation of your new life. There will be moments where life surprises you with small blessings. A new connection, a new opportunity, or a new idea that sparks something inside your soul. You'll realize the universe was never punishing you. It was preparing you for a version of life that required you to evolve. Starting over teaches you the power of patience. Because transformation doesn't happen in big leaps, it happens in tiny, consistent decisions. You'll learn that slow progress is still progress, and every small move forward is a silent declaration that you refuse to give up. Your heart will open in ways it hasn't in years. You'll begin to dream again, not from desperation, but from hope. The fear you once carried will slowly become excitement. The uncertainty that felt terrifying will begin to feel like possibility. Eventually, you'll look back at the person you were before you started over. And you won't recognize them, not because they were bad, but because you've grown so far beyond them. You'll feel grateful for the moment you decided to begin again. Even though it broke you at first, it rebuilt you into someone stronger. You will learn that starting over is not about leaving everything behind. It's about carrying forward only what helps you grow. You'll finally understand that the ending you feared was actually the beginning you needed. And your heart will feel lighter because of it. In time, you'll realize you didn't lose yourself during the journey. You were simply uncovering the parts of you that had been buried beneath doubt and fear. You'll see that starting over is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of wisdom, courage, and self-respect. And the day will come when you stand in a new chapter of your life. A chapter you created with your own hands, your own strength, and your own resilience. When that day arrives, you'll breathe in a way you haven't breathed in years. You'll finally feel free because you chose to rebuild. And in that moment, you'll understand the truth. Starting over wasn't the hardest thing you ever did. Staying the same would have been.